right? So of the 26 open source car projects that are being developed right now, like Wikispeed, none of them is not sustainable. They all think in terms of biodegradable materials. For example, Wikispeed is 5 times as fuel efficient as the industrial cars on the market today. So these things can be done, and they're done in the margins, but I think what we at least have to do is know what is happening and facilitate these experimentations, and then make sure that this kind of productive knowledge is diffused more efficiently in the social fabric. And I think this is a job, you know, for government basically. This is a facilitating job, enabling and empowering these types of social innovation.
Good afternoon. In this model, P2P, if I invest in research and development, what would be the way of returning the investment?
No, you need to repeat it maybe closer to the mic. I didn't get the question.
In this model, P2P, if I invest in research and development, what would be the way of returning the investment? If I put it directly in internet and I want to collaborate.
Basically, it's what used to be done before the neoliberal privatization policy. Basically, the return on investment is the common pool resource itself. So you are sure that all innovations that you have invested in can be used by all players. And this is basically how science used to be done. You know, I just want to give you an example. Think about polio. Polio, the vaccine, was put in the public domain, and within 5 years, you know, it was almost eradicated. So I'm not sure about the details, but, and then you think about AIDS, where the medicine is private, the knowledge is privatized, and for years and years and years, people were dying because they couldn't afford the medicine, right? So in my view, it makes more sense to mutualize the research, to put the research in a common pool, and then let the market use the innovations, but not to privatize it in the early stage. There's much more, and I'm sure you know this, all the studies show that the more patents you have, the slower innovation you have, right? So we have to relax the system of patents and use common pool resources that can generate these market activities around it. Now, maybe I can give you an indication of how this works in practice. If you look at the free software economy, there is actually a structure that you can recognize, and it's kind of repeating itself in different projects. So I think this is kind of a consolidation of something that works. And so basically the idea is that at the core you have the community of contributors. And these contributors can be, you know, free contributions, but they can also be paid contributions. Think about Linux, where 75% of the contributions are paid, and 25% of the contributions come from the voluntary sector, right? So you have a mix. But the important point is that all the contributors, all the players, feed the common pool. A second element is the foundations. Almost all these projects have foundations that enable and facilitate the cooperation. Think about the Wikimedia Foundation doing the fundraising for the Wikipedia. Think about the Linux Foundation, the Apache Foundation, the GNOME Foundation. So all of these projects have some kind of non-profit association that protects the cooperation and the infrastructure and enables the process to continue. But then around it, and this is of course important, you have the entrepreneurial coalition, which can be very big, as in the case of Linux, where you have IBM and Red Hat and lots of companies contributing and creating economic streams around this common pool. So that is a general way in which it functions today. And in my view, it functions pretty well in the field of software. Now, the field of open hardware is a bit more emerging and a bit more difficult. And there don't seem to be foundations in the field of open hardware, which may have to do with the fact that the need for capital is bigger, and therefore there's a bigger dependency on the market players. So you have, if you look at Arduino, which is one of the biggest ecosystems in open hardware, you don't see a foundation, you see a community on one side, and you see the ecosystem of companies on the other side. And they are hiring the people that work on the common pool of designs that are used in this particular ecosystem. So it's a bit different. Wikispeed, this is an interesting example, could not find funding for its car project because the private investors cannot understand how they can have a return on a car without a patent, right? So they could not find this type of investment, but they've succeeded in creating a kind of a civic crowdfunding system, which allows them to continue to produce these innovations week by week. It's a field of experimentation, so a lot of things are still unclear, but there are enough things are happening to make it important enough that people interested in innovation should have their eyes on this, right?